Today we welcome Director of Football for FC Romania, Georgiou, to the Non-League Radio Show. Welcome, George.
Thank you very much, Stephen, and it's a pleasure to be on it, to be fair.
Not a problem. Before we get into your role at the club, I want to ask, I'll do this for everyone, your first memories of football.
My first memories of football was, for me, it was to do with, obviously, I'm originally from Camden Town. And I had the opportunity at a very young age, 6 or 7 years of age, to go and watch the Arsenal. And my favourite memory of all time, I think it was when Arsenal won the league against Everton and Tony Adams scored. There was a ball from Theobalds over the top, and Tony Adams had a volley and scored it to make it 4-2 or something like that. Obviously, we won the league then, so that was my greatest memories. Winning the league, to do with Arsenal more than anything. I'm a fanatic supporter of Arsenal, so.
No, I'm getting that already. You're a fanatic Arsenal fan. So, I know, obviously, you've had a career in football for a while with Fulham and then with Purfleet. I don't know if you could just talk about that a little bit.
So I was lucky enough to be involved at a place called Market Road, which is in Islington, Camden, Islington. It's quite famous for professional footballers coming out of the league, and I was fortunate enough to play for the league team about 17 years of age. And they had a league side at the end of the season, and they wanted to play a game against Fulham, just trialist game. And then I got chosen out of like 16 players to go for a trial against Fulham. I went there, and Ray Lewington was there, and Pierce, who used to be the manager, more so Ray Lewington. And as I was playing, I played obviously pretty well, and Ray said for me to come back in pre-season. So I came back in pre-season. This was at Fulham, and I done really well. And I obviously got a contract there, and it was a pleasure to. Most boys' dream is to be a professional footballer, so it was a good learning curve. The only disadvantage that I think I had was I didn't have that learning experience of being a professional footballer. Once you're there, you think you've done it. So it was obviously that process, the hard process of everyday living and training hard and dedication.
And I can, from your notes here, it's saying prolific non-league striker with Purfleet. So I was just wondering, how many goals did you get there?
Being modest, yeah, no. I mean, for one of the things that I was always quite good at is obviously scoring goals. So that was from a very early age, where under eights, when I scored the only goal in the Bank of Ireland Cup, and I just everywhere I went, I think I scored goals. Most places, I think at Purfleet, I scored 109 goals in about 211 appearances, spanning over 3.5, 4 years with them. Scored a few goals at Dagenham as well. So I think everywhere I went, I scored a few goals. My idol was like Batistuta or Vialli or Mark Hughes. Some people might not know who that is, but those type of players. So that was how I looked upon and what type of style of player I was, and for me, more than importantly, was it was a pleasure to be around different changing rooms and learning so much,
And then it says you won the FA Sunday Cup, which is great. And then stints at obviously FC Romania, Colney Heath, and now you've returned to the club. Where did the first relationship with FC Romania come about?
So, I mean, before that, what I wanted to say, sorry, I played in Cyprus for 5 years. So that was a good learning curve. But when I came back, I was desperately in needing after the end of my career to be managing. So I went to Salamina as a Sunday manager. I'd done 11 years there, got them right through the ladder, right up to step 6, step 5, step 6. But in the meantime, we won the FA Sunday Cup. So the hunger for getting there. But the issue that I have is you don't really get recognised. And there's a lot of good Sunday League managers that don't have that chance to get up. So I had a good 11 years. And then unfortunately, it came to an end, and it was around the COVID times, just before, when we played that 11 games, only 11 games, or 12 games it was, and Ian he was looking for an assistant manager, and I thought, it's a good opportunity to get back into the ladder, around the change room, because obviously as a footballer and as a manager, you always want to be around the change room. And I think that's for me, out of anything, the change room atmosphere you can't beat, and you can't bottle that in any way. So he asked me to be. So I'd done the 11 games, and then obviously there was COVID, so that was quite difficult times. And then we'd done a full season together. But unfortunately, he was fighting a court case, which obviously I don't want to say too much, but unfortunately he lost the case, and we built such a great side to be prosperous for the following season. This was around July time, and he lost the capabilities. And then I gained the club back last season, the last 10, 11 games, and by then it was just too late. So in the meantime, obviously, I left because of the situation about I didn't have a club, and the opportunity came about at Coney Heath. And I felt the aspirations at the particular time was something that I was looking for. So I'd done the 5 months there, and I kept them up, which was the goal. But this opportunity to come back to FC Romania with Ian was, for me, when I spoke to Stefan and Ian, who's obviously who's the manager of the football side and a very close friend of mine, they said, listen, let's build this side into something great. But in the meantime, I was asked also, hence that's why I'm doing a director of football role, is to build the management team and a team around it to try and get promoted this season, because that's the focus. So I brought in Kevin Christou, who came about when I was at Coney Heath, and who's won multiple leagues and is a very strong character. And I get on with him. In football they say you ain't got too many friends, but I found myself a friend there who was very close, and I was fortunate enough to spend those 2 or 3 months with him at the end of the season for Coney Heath. So I had him. So I brought him along, and I've put him as assistant manager with Ian, because I think them two together will be fantastic. Obviously, I'll be in and around supporting, etc. But there's a bigger picture at the football club. The dream is a little bit bigger about building stadiums and sports academies and all that. And so I thought my focus will only not just be on the football side, will be on the bigger picture. Then I brought Matt Choker in, who's the first team assistant coach to the club as well, from Hadley, because we want the right management team to have this wonderful side that we're going to try and build up as quick as possible, to obviously fight this Spartan League to get back to a place where we should be in step 4.
I was going to touch on the director of football, because you hear that a lot in high levels of football as well, and sometimes you wonder what a director of football actually does. But you've described quite well there. It's getting the right stuff in, sorting things behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think I'm at an age now. Sorry, Stephen. I think I'm at an age now that I feel that if I can't be manager of a team and at a bigger side, like a team with aspirations, then there's no point. But this was just too good to and I needed the right. We needed the right, because when I was at FC Romania before, it was just me and Ian, which is with a club that's gone from it's the same path as where I was at my previous club in New Salamis. They've come from non-league football. Come from non-league football straight up to step 4, step 5. And for me, it was like a good little dream for them to go back up. So that's why I wanted to be a part of this club.
I'm going to ask about your teams. I can see from your website, I'll just give that out quickly on air, that there's a lot of signings going on. 3 weeks ago, there's quite a few signings and people being retained. So it's fcromania.com's a website. So I'm guessing you're being quite busy with a lot of focus on the first team and getting some players in.
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of the boys that were there previously, they have that dream of, I understand, and they've got the aspiration of wanting to stay in step 4 and step 3. Going down to step 4, they think it's like a poor standard, and they're obviously too good. So to try and give them that dream of one season to come straight back up, I mean, that's the focus. We want to get up as soon as possible, and that's how I am, and that's how the boys around me, as in the management team around me, that's our aspiration. So we didn't want to keep the remaining players that didn't want to be there. We want people to be there that wants, people who wants to be with a heart, and wants to want to play for the club. And it's not just about the money; it's about the aspirations to want to do one. I think the signings that we've got so far, Toby Choker, Zenon, who wants to come back to the club, wanted to come back to the club, which was great, So, and plus we know a few players, a few boys that, potentially could push us in that direction. So there is a few that we haven't announced yet, which we'll do in the next week. That's obviously going to help the cause as well.
And obviously, there's a big push on the first team. Have you got future plans for other teams, youth teams?
Yeah, so the plan is to establish ourselves this year with the management team that we got, and then from following season. See, we're looking at the moment. There's a plan to build a stadium, looking for sites to make the club bigger, because it's been a privilege to be at Cheshunt Football Club. We've been there for about 11 years, 12 years now. They've been a great host to us. I've been around there for a very long time. I even played for them, to be fair. So the boys are there. But I mean, the issues that we have is gaining supporters and bringing incoming, etc. So we're trying to find facilities in the future, so we can build a stadium or have some kind of connection with the community, the Romanian community, but more so the wider community. So if we can find, somewhere between Harrow and Edgware, we're looking around those areas in the future to try and attract players. But in the meantime, we've got a communication team that at the moment, Twitter and the boys there, the two Pauls, that are trying to support the other side of the financial side of the club to push the club on.
Because you touched on facilities there, because it says you've got a great relationship with Cheshunt, who you ground share with.
Yeah,
presently. How does that arrangement work? Obviously, the fixtures will be must have to work. The fixtures must be quite hard to work out at times.
Well, yeah, I mean, whoever does that, especially when the Spartan League, I think they're pretty good on the Spartan League to work around the bigger clubs. So it hasn't been a problem in the past. So I don't think, and if there is a problem, if there's a Tuesday night game for Cheshunt, we'll play on a Wednesday. Or if there's a Saturday game, we'll play on a Sunday. But I think hopefully this season there won't be too much of a clash. And we should be able to coincide with the Tuesday, Saturday games, and that will attract more people anyway. Anyway, it's all about winning games.
Yeah.
If you're successful, every team that's successful get a crowd, get support. When you're doing bad and you're down the bottom and getting relegated from step 4, you're not going to attract bigger supporters, because financially they don't want to pay that type of money to watch us lose. So if we're winning games, the aspiration is the supporters will come back, especially around the Cheshunt area, because they do enjoy the way we play football, because we've got a special way that we play, and hopefully that will attract the younger supporter and people that want to come along, and watch a team around the top of the half of the season. So that's the aspiration. I'm not saying that's happening, but that's where we're looking at.
No, good stuff. Obviously, we're between end of season and the starting of training, but how often are the guys training on a weekly basis? So
we train 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, which is pretty normal with non-league football anyway. We have, for the first month, it's around park areas and etc. And then the pre-season games start on the 1st of July against Cheshunt. And then from then on, every 4 days, there's a pre-season game in between, up until the 29th of July. And then after that, I think the first game of the season is the second or the fifth. It could be the FA Cup. So, we're looking to play 6 or 7 pre-season games, but in between those Tuesdays games or Tuesdays or the Thursdays training session, we try and fit in a training session and make them run like anything with a ball.
Good stuff. I know you touched on earlier about getting straight out, trying to get straight back out of this league you're in. How tough is the league you're in?
I've just come out of it, and Kevin Christou has won this league. Matt has been a part of Hadley, that's gone up. So I know what the expectations is, being at Coney Heath last season. So it's a really difficult league. So we're not saying we're going to cruise, or we're looking. That's why we want to attract the better player, the more quality of player, because we're not here to mess about. But it's such a hard league to get out of, and if we do, we get the opportunity to either be in the first 2. That would be great, because Royal Bedford's in there as well. That's one of the sides that I think is going to be very strong this year. But there's a playoff this year, because they're trying to extend step 4 now, aren't they? So, there's an opportunity there. So there is opportunities, the first 6 sides to go up this season, potentially.
Not a chance. We've talked a lot about the playing side of things. I was wanting to touch on the non-playing staff and maybe the volunteers you have about the club.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got, again, there's we got Barbara and John, who's been there forever. We call them mum and dad. They look after the hospitality side of stuff. And obviously, there are 1 or 2 people that work voluntary, doing, the gates, etc. And that's at the club of a given week when we're at Cheshunt. So we do get a lot of support from the Cheshunt community and the Cheshunt supporters as well. So that's a big shout out. I mean, more so, the people that I can really say that's been very supportive is John and Barbara, who's been there for such a long time to support the club, which has been great.
And again, some message touched on earlier was that the fans and supporters obviously getting relegated. People aren't going to want, unless you're a die-hard supporter. The thing about supporters and trying to get them through the gate.
Yeah. So that's why we've Paul Lilly has come to the club. He was with me at Coney Heath. He's doing all the communication stuff, trying to attract local businesses and schools, etc., to be interested, because we're trying to go down that avenue with the social media, etc. And there's going to be a few things on Twitter and all that will be, once we establish and we start playing our pre-season games, to try and attract the supporters. But again, as I said, when we were doing well all those years, we were getting supporters, we're getting lots of supporters. So it's not like they can't come. It's just about being successful. And I think that's what's been the focus all along, is to start winning games. And that's what it's all about. The fundamental things at the end of the day. It's not just about putting your money in your pocket, having a decent enough budget to get the best players. It's not about that. It's about the bigger picture and wanting to have a team that's coincides. And I think Ian and Kevin and Matt's got a big job to mould this new side together, and which they have been. The pre-season has started last Saturday, so we started earlier than everyone else, just to get the players to a certain fitness and the way with the style of play that we are. So we're ready for the first of July against Cheshunt.
Well, that's been great. Hopefully we've painted a picture about the club and the setup. And people want to find out more, fcromania.com. There's links on there to the Twitter and Insta, the Twitter, FC Romania. Please go and check the guys out. And if you can get there on a weekend, please try and support them. George, it's been great speaking to you.
Yeah, it's been, thanks. Again, Steve, and I really do appreciate it. And hopefully we'll talk again in the next couple of months, or whenever you're free. I'm more than happy to have a chat with the guys on the station, and I just wish you all the best.
Yeah, you too. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Stephen.